Welcome back to JoyTube, a place where ancient texts and biblical stories are brought to life, thereby helping you to understand the very mind of God that will aid you to walk in the ways of God and live a righteous life. Today, we are looking at the truths behind misunderstood verses of the Bible. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more and well-grounded understanding of the Bible and the ancient texts. Let's dive in. What if I told you that some of the most quoted Bible verses were never meant to mean what we think they do? Today, we're exposing some of the biggest biblical misconceptions, and the truth will shock you. 1. Money is the root of all evil. 1 Timothy chapter 6:10. Misconception. The Bible says money is evil. Truth. The verse actually says, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It's not about wealth itself but about greed and misplaced priorities. There are many ways love of money manifest in our day-to-day lives. And that is exactly what the Bible is talking about. 1. Corruption and greed in leadership. We've all seen it, politicians and corporate executives who prioritize profits over people. When leaders love money more than justice, we get bribery and corruption. Government officials accepting bribes to pass harmful policies. Exploitation. CEOs underpaying workers while taking massive bonuses. Public funds misuse, money meant for hospitals, schools, or communities disappearing into offshore accounts. Real example. The Panama Papers exposed how wealthy elites and politicians hid billions to avoid taxes while the poor paid the price. 2. Human trafficking and modern slavery. One of the darkest evils fueled by the love of money is human trafficking. Young girls sold into sex slavery because someone sees them as profit. Factories using child labor to produce cheap clothes and electronics. Migrant workers trapped in forced labor, making fast food or building stadiums for big events. Real example. The 2022 Qatar World Cup was surrounded by reports of migrant workers dying due to inhumane working conditions, all to build billion-dollar stadiums quickly. 3. The drug trade and addiction epidemic. Drug cartels and dealers aren't in it to help anyone. They're in it for the money. They flood communities with addictive substances to keep customers dependent. Gangs and crime syndicates violently fight for territory, leading to thousands of deaths. Pharmaceutical companies push opioids, ignoring the human cost. Real example. The opioid crisis in America was largely driven by companies like Purdue Pharma, who marketed OxyContin as non-addictive, despite knowing otherwise. They made billions, while millions suffered. 4. Relationship and family breakdown. When money becomes the ultimate goal, relationships suffer. Marriages break apart over financial disputes. Parents work endless hours, neglecting their kids for more wealth. Siblings turn against each other fighting over inheritance. Real example. How many families have been torn apart because of greedy inheritance battles? Money turns love into war. 5. Fraud and scams. The digital age of deception. From Ponzi schemes to cryptocurrency scams, the love of money drives people to deceive others. Online scams trick elderly people out of their life savings. Get-rich-quick schemes exploit desperate job seekers. Influencers push fake investments, making millions while followers lose everything. Real example. The FTX crypto collapse saw billions disappear overnight, leaving ordinary investors broke while the founders lived lavishly. Ever seen a get-rich-quick scheme online? Someone promising easy millions if you just send them cash? When people love money more than integrity, trust is shattered. 6. War and bloodshed for profit. Sadly, war isn't always about national security, it's often about money. Arms manufacturers make billions selling weapons. Private military companies profit from conflict. Countries fight over oil, gold, and minerals, not just politics. Real example. The blood diamond trade fuels wars in Africa, where rebel groups sell diamonds to fund violence while innocent people suffer. Not all wars are fought for justice. Many are fought for money. Is money itself evil? No. Money is a tool. It can be used for good or for evil. But when we love money above all else, it leads to corruption, exploitation, destruction, and suffering. What other evils do you think are driven by the love of money? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 2. Misconception. God will never give you more than you can handle. 1 Corinthians chapter 10:13. Misconception. People believe this means we should never struggle. Truth. The verse actually refers to temptation, not life's hardships. God allows us to go through difficulties but provides strength to endure. God will never give you more than you can handle. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13. This verse is often misunderstood and misapplied. Many people believe it means God will never allow them to experience financial struggles, hardships, or overwhelming circumstances. Some even twist it to imply that becoming rich is a sign that God knows you can handle wealth. But does this verse really say that? Let's break it down. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13 actually say, "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it." 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13, NIV, what it actually refers to, temptation to sin. What it does not refer to, life's hardships, financial success, or personal struggles. Some believe this verse means, God won't allow me to go through financial struggles beyond my strength. If I'm facing overwhelming hardship, God must not have allowed it. If I'm rich, God must have given it to me because I can handle it better than others. This is not what the verse is saying. Truth is life will give you more than you can handle. The Bible shows many people facing more than they could handle. Throughout the Bible, we see godly men and women completely overwhelmed. Moses, burdened by leading Israel, said, "I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me." Numbers 11:14. David faced despair, saying, "My guilt has overwhelmed me like a burden too heavy to bear." Psalm 38 verse 4. Paul, the writer of Corinthians, admitted, "We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself." 2 Corinthians 1 verse 8. Conclusion. God does allow us to face more than we can handle, but not so we can rely on ourselves, but so we can rely on Him. Wealth is not what this verse is talking about. Many prosperity preachers twist this verse to say, God gives money only to those who can handle it. If you're poor, it's because God knows you can't manage wealth. This is unbiblical and manipulative theology. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 10, "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income." This too is meaningless. Some righteous people in the Bible were wealthy: Abraham, Solomon, Job. Some righteous people were poor: Elijah, John the Baptist, Jesus himself. Some wicked people were rich: the Pharisees, the rich man in Luke 16. Some wicked people were poor: Judas was poor when he died. Money is not a measure of God's favor, and poverty is not a sign of God's disapproval. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13 is not about financial success, suffering, or hardship. It's about overcoming sin and temptation. Key truths from this verse. Everyone faces temptation. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. God will not allow temptation beyond what we can resist. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. God always provides a way out. He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. This verse means that no temptation, whether greed, lust, anger, pride, or deceit, is impossible to overcome with God's help. This is why this misconception is dangerous. Twisting this verse leads to false hope and discouragement. If people believe God won't give them more than they can handle, they may feel abandoned when life overwhelms them. If people believe wealth is a sign that God approves of them, they may chase money instead of God. If people believe poverty means God knows they can't handle riches, they may feel unworthy or cursed. The truth? Sometimes, life will give you more than you can handle, so you will depend on God. 3. Judge not, that you be not judged. Matthew chapter 7 verse 1. Misconception. Christians shouldn't call out sin. Truth. The full context warns against hypocrisy, not against discernment. We are to judge righteously, not self-righteously. One of the most misquoted verses in the Bible is Matthew 7 verse 1, where Jesus says, "Judge not, that you be not judged." Matthew 7 verse 1, KJV. Many people interpret this verse as you have no right to judge me or Christians shouldn't call out sin. But is that really what Jesus meant? Let's break it down biblically and correct this misunderstanding. Many people, especially when confronted about their actions, will say, "Only God can judge me. You're a Christian. You're not supposed to judge. Jesus said judge not. So stop pointing out my sins." This interpretation assumes that all judgment is wrong. Christians have no right to discern or correct sin. Holding people accountable is being judgmental. This is a major misunderstanding. Jesus did not mean that we should ignore sin or never make judgments. Many people quote Matthew 7 verse 1 but ignore the rest of the passage. Let's look at the full context. Matthew 7 verses 1 to 5 Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce you will be judged, and with the measure you use it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," when there is the log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Jesus condemns hypocritical judgment, not righteous judgment. Jesus is not saying, never call out sin. Ignore wrongdoing. Stay silent about moral issues. He is saying, before you correct others, examine your own life first. Don't be a hypocrite. Judge yourself before judging others. After dealing with your own sin, then you can help others with theirs. The Bible commands righteous judgment. John chapter 7 verse 24, do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 12 to 13. Is it not those inside the church whom you are to judge? God judges those outside. Galatians chapter 6 verse 1. If someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 15. The spiritual person judges all things. Judgment is not wrong. Hypocritical, self-righteous judgment is. Many people misuse Matthew chapter 7 verse 1 to silence correction. But if we misinterpret this verse, we ignore sin. If no one is allowed to judge, how can we warn people about destructive lifestyles? Stay silent on moral issues. Should we stop speaking against injustice, immorality, and sin? Misrepresent Jesus. Jesus called out sin many times. In John chapter 8 verse 11, Matthew chapter 23 verse 27. He never meant for us to stay silent in the face of wrongdoing. Jesus was teaching accountability, not silence. So, how should we judge in a godly way? 1. With humility. We are all sinners, so we should correct others with love, not arrogance. Galatians chapter 6 verse 1. 2. Without hypocrisy. Examine your own heart first before pointing fingers. Matthew chapter 7 verse 5. 3. With righteous judgment. Judge based on God's truth, not personal opinions. John chapter 7 verse 24. 4. With grace and love. The goal is restoration, not condemnation. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 15. Judgment should lead to healing, not destruction. Jesus was not saying, never judge. Jesus was not saying, ignore sin. Jesus was not saying, Christians can't call out wrongdoing. Jesus was warning against self-righteous, hypocritical judgment. We are called to judge, righteously, humbly, and with love. If someone is living in sin, the loving thing to do is to correct them, not ignore it. Have you ever heard someone say, don't judge me, when they were confronted with sin? Let's discuss this in the comments. So, have we been reading the Bible wrong? The truth is, a single verse out of context can change everything. But God's word is powerful when we truly understand it. If this opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. What other Bible verses do you think have been misunderstood? Drop them in the comments, and let's explore them together. And most importantly, seek wisdom. Seek truth. Seek God above wealth, and you will never be poor. Please like, share and subscribe to JoyTube, See you in the next video.